And just before we kick off with the official community call, which, as you all know, is a technical AMA where you can ask our engineers anything technical. So not anything, but anything technical. That's what we're doing today. But before we start, I would like to just invite Alex, who's a new member of the K Factory or the Centrifuge team, to say a very quick hello and introduce yourself.
Yes, hi everyone. So not at all on the technical side. I recently joined. I'm going to be in charge of speaking to more institutional capital players. I'm going to use the opportunity to shamelessly plug my Twitter account. I wrote a story there on essentially my background and why I joined Centrifuge. And yeah, you can catch up on that over there.
Great. Everyone check that his Twitter account out for his origin story. And welcome to the team. Okay, so technical AMA. We've got a bunch of really great questions. Let's start off by hearing from Alina, Miguel, and Branan. Can we have an intro from each of you? What are you working on in Centrifuge? Maybe a sentence about your background. Alina, can you start?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am taking care of the smart contracts on Ethereum for our pools. I am with Centrifuge over 2.5 years already, and I'm in the space, I think, for 5 years or something. So, yeah, I pass on to Branan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Branan. I work on the chain, primarily on the pools on Centrifuge chain / pools on Altair functionality, previously known as tinlake on Centrifuge. I've been with Centrifuge for 9 months now, and this is my first job in the DeFi ecosystem. It has been a lot of fun.
All right. Yeah, my name is Miguel. I work in the protocol team that is basically in charge of the core aspect of the Centrifuge chain, as well as the peer-to-peer document consensus layer, and as well I do a little bit of infrastructure as well with the within the DevOps team. Yeah, I've been in the company already over 4 years, I think. Yeah, so pretty long and interesting journey. So
great, thanks, Miguel. And we've got Lucas. You'll be helping out a bit today, here and there. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Jeroen's unfortunately sick, so I decided to take his place. But of course, anybody here, like, this is an open discussion, and just weigh in as well, just because I'm taking Jeroen's place. Like, if you have any inputs here, team members, community members, like, let's just make it as open of a discussion, conversation as possible. But maybe as we're talking about engineering specific stuff, I can say I don't do much anymore. I don't think I've submitted a pull request on GitHub in several months. So that's a bit sad, but this is where I came from. Started writing a lot of Solidity and peer-to-peer code, Go code at Centrifuge. And so we'll try to give a bit of the high level feedback. But of course, now these days, what I focus on is getting people excited about Centrifuge, bringing new people to help us build Centrifuge into the ecosystem, into our team, doing things like representing Centrifuge at events, and sort of trying to shape a bit of the vision for where we're going.
Thank you. And yeah, anyone in the call, if you have there's something that's not clear about an answer, please feel free to message in the chat, or just ask for clarification, or ask for one of our speakers, or for anyone else in the team to go a bit deeper. It's totally like a really open zone here. We don't expect people to be experts at all, so just feel free. We've got a bunch of questions that people have submitted through the forum, so I'll start by asking a few of them. But if questions come up for you as I ask them, just pop them in the chat or take your mic off and ask it yourself. But the first question is very general, and I will need one of you to elect into answering this. Can you describe the Centrifuge Tech Stack? What is it made up of, and what does each part do?
I can take this because I've been explaining it all week at ETH Denver. So I guess there's two different versions of this. There's the version that's in production that involves tinlake on Ethereum, and then there's the version that we're trying to build. So I'll start with what we have and then explain how it's going to be simplified and faster and better. So what we have right now is three pieces. We have the tinlake smart contracts on Ethereum, which are the actual like lending and investment pools. We have the Centrifuge chain, which is currently running. That chain is used for minting NFTs that represent real world assets before those NFTs are transferred to Ethereum into tinlake. And then we have the peer-to-peer document store, which is, I think, kind of our special sauce. This is what allows our asset originators to provide their documents securely to underwriters so that underwriters can review information about those real world assets and then link the hash of that document in the peer-to-peer store back onto Centrifuge chain into their NFT, which means that the underwriter will say that they have basically verified the document that matches that hash, that it matches what the NFT says, and that it's safe to be used in the tinlake protocol. Alina, Miguel, if I have any mistakes, please feel free to jump in. So that's more or less what we have right now. Moving forward, tinlake on Ethereum is going to be replaced by the pools on Centrifuge chain and pools on Altair. But the overall structure of the system is the same. So an asset originator will upload a document to the peer-to-peer document store. They'll share that document securely with an underwriter. They'll link that document to an NFT. An underwriter then on Centrifuge chain or on Altair will value that NFT, put a bunch of information about financial risk values that I don't totally understand, and then it will be usable in the pools feature, and the originator will be able to borrow money with it.
Awesome. Thank you, Branan. Lucas, you want to add something?
I'll add like maybe one part to this, which I think is important, or emphasize it. I mean, you sort of mentioned it already, Branan, right? Like what we think of Centrifuge chain, it's the place where like issuers and underwriters, they all come together and do all of this work that Branan talked about. And the pools are created, right? But then today, like 100% of our liquidity comes from Ethereum. Like some of it is individuals buying tokens. Some of it is from the real world asset market with Aave. Some of it is coming from Maker. I think that's when we think of like, how do we build the best product for issuers and borrowers to get the cheapest cost of capital? What we want is for that liquidity, or for as many different sources of liquidity to be able to plug in so that they can just get the cheapest cost, right? So for example, if like today Akala really has a need for more collateral, they want real estate, for example, then New Silver can go and move their tokens into the Akala parachain and deposit them there and borrow money cheaply, because there's maybe an imbalance there. Maybe a couple of weeks later, there's actually like the real world asset market on Ethereum is growing, and then you can go and move your tokens there, right? So the vision is like Centrifuge chain is this like ecosystem of underwriters, issuers, borrowers that work together and creating these pools, and then we bridge them to wherever necessary, right? Cosmos, Polkadot, Kusama, Ethereum, really what you name it, right? And at that point, like these tokens, they're like super fungible, they're easy to understand, they have a price, they have like something backing it, and all of that is sort of maintained by Centrifuge Chain or Altair. And then that sort of like can be used to get liquidity. I think that's like really an important part of like where this our architecture is going as we launch the parachain, and how we think about multi-chain DeFi and Centrifuge, essentially. Yeah, and maybe also like just to talk a bit about how soon, like where we are on the roadmap. I don't know if this is a question, but Branan is talking about our future tech stack. I think the really exciting thing is with like the parachain is going live. This is the first step of getting there, and the auditors have been now working on this for exactly a month on reviewing the first iteration of pools. So like, I think they're taking like another 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll do some fixes and make improvements, and have been doing a lot of testing. But we're really like have come a long way in actually like getting towards that multi-chain version of pools on Centrifuge chain. And so that's really cool. So exciting to see when that will happen.
Cool. We've just had a question that's come through about our roadmap, but I'll come back to that a bit later, because I think we were getting in the direction of like what happens with the onboarding on Polkadot, given that we won a parachain slot. The question is, during onboarding on Polkadot, will Centrifuge be switched off for a while? Could this action harm Tinlake or the Ethereum contracts, or will it continue to work in parallel? Alina, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I mean, no, we don't need to switch anything off. We can, our contracts or pools on Ethereum can exist as long as we need them, so we can have a really smooth transition.
I think the one thing that may happen is we will have to halt the Centrifuge chain and then copy the data and start the Centrifuge parachain. During that window, issuers won't be able to mint new NFTs, I think is the only thing that will happen. But that window will be very, very small.
Yeah, and obviously we won't be introducing any new features on the Ethereum smart contract. So everything that is new will be just deployed on Centrifuge chain. So we'll just keep our existing deployments basically.
Cool. Any follow-up questions from anyone for that? Otherwise, I think it's quite clear. I think that was from you, Ivan, right? Okay. So following on from that, this question asks, will one of the main functions of Centrifuge, securing the network, diminish since we won the parachain slot and soon will be onboarded and will rely on Polkadot for security instead of the Centrifuge network? So the question is about relying on Polkadot security, I guess.
I mean, this question kind of overlaps with the following one to some degree. To understand what's the difference between a parachain or a standalone chain, or validators and collators, which is the next question. Maybe we can just tackle that one first and then see if there is anything left.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people really wanting us to focus on collators, so I think we should spend some time here, Miguel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, as you may have read, like we are moving our standalone chain to be a parachain in Polkadot, and aside of the migration plan that we're working on, one of the main things that this affects is what is the role of the validators or the collators, and these the main two sentences around this is validators on the Polkadot relay chain, they provide the security of the network. Collators on the parachain, they mainly focused on the block proposal, block production. So they don't, all the validation of transactions based on the state transition function of a particular parachain are happening on the Polkadot relay chain. So the security of like going from one state to another state lives there. So the collators have at least less importance in terms of the security, but still they are important in terms of the progression of the chain. So they can still be front runners or denial service of the chain if they don't behave accordingly. Today, the collators are rewarded with transaction fees, if they are part of the authority set. But in the future, we are thinking of how we can supplement that with some other rewards based on error points or how they perform in general on this on a time frame.
Anything to add? Anyone on this? Are there any follow-up questions on this transition from validators to collators? I know that we've got some validators in the audience here. Yaroslav, are you feeling completely clear?
Yeah, I think so. We're still waiting for the news on Altair collators. So, yeah.
Okay. So the next question, Miguel, do you feel like that's mostly covered in terms of security?
I mean, in terms of security, yes. One interesting aspect of not locking your your tokens is that you could use them for something else within the Centrifuge chain, not just as part of, in the past you lock your tokens for the security of the net to ensure the security of the network, and then you get a reward by doing so. Now, since that it would be slightly different, you will be able to use those tokens for something else, maybe contributing to some of the pools. I don't know, like that could come later, but there are other options to make rewards out of your tokens.
Cool. So I want to go high level for a minute because we had a nice submission in the chat. Well, it was DM'd to me. And I want to ask all of you this question. What are the 3 top challenging technical items on the roadmap for 2020? And I think you can interpret this as like the things that you're working on and what makes each item challenging.
I mean, I think I'm going to say cross-chain everything, and I could probably turn that into 2 or 3 things, but at least, the Polkadot ecosystem cross-chain interactions and the Ethereum ones are going to be, different, especially because, for us, we have to have, our tokens are permissioned. The DeFi protocols they can interact with have to be sort of explicitly enabled. So there's going to be a lot of interesting interactions that I think are different from a project that's purely a crypto project, right? And we solved a lot of that on Ethereum, but resolving it on Polkadot in a multi-chain DeFi world is going to be complicated but exciting.
Yeah, I +1 this as it involves me personally. So yeah, then the adapters for the DeFi protocols will be interesting to build them in an async way. So I'm excited for this as well, though.
Can you say specifically a bit more about like what is so challenging about it for you, Alina?
I mean, because I am involved in the solidity side right now. So right now we can interact basically in one transaction, right? That you can take out a loan and also borrow from Maker. But with our own chain, we will have to build an asynchronous flow, how we want to interact with Maker, for example.
Does someone want to explain what asynchronous means for the audience that might not?
I can do that. So when we when we're looking at tinlake on Ethereum, when a borrower wants to, borrow money against an asset, if that money is not in the reserve, tinlake can automatically go to Maker, or I guess Aave now. I'm not quite sure how the Aave integration works, but I know this is true for Maker. It'll go to Maker and it'll say, is there Maker liquidity available? And it will borrow directly from Maker. And that all happens within that single borrow transaction. When we're on a separate chain, we have to send a command from our chain to Ethereum that tells some smart contract on Ethereum to do some interactions with Maker. That transaction has to finish. The result of that comes back to our chain. But by the time that happens, it could be several blocks later on our chain, right? So we now have this, we can't do all of that in one transaction on the Centrifuge chain anymore. We have to sort of start it, put things into a partial state because we don't want to lock up the pool for all those blocks. So it still has to be in a healthy state where other people can interact with the pool, potentially other assets can be borrowed against, repayments can happen, investors can invest. And then eventually Ethereum transaction finishes and we get, those DAI back from Maker or whatever else. And then we have to sort of wrap up that process later. So that's the asynchronous issue. And that's also an issue in the Polkadot ecosystem. The Polkadot cross-chain messaging is similarly asynchronous.
Great, thank you, Branan. Miguel, could you go next on this question of what are the top 3 challenging technical items on the roadmap, your roadmap for 2022, and what makes each item challenging?
So of course, cross-chain messaging is a big one, and we are pretty much all involved on that to some degree. Then I would add because we're working on the Polkadot ecosystem, and this year is going to be really interesting and important for it to see how it how it scales, how it actually compares to other other projects. So there's going to be challenges around the operational cost, the number of transactions that they can hold, number of parachains that can be onboarded. So all technical challenges that are going to rise up from that. That's what I'm going to be pretty focused on. And yeah, I think trying to get the access to our ecosystem or the protocol a bit more friendly. I think right now it's fairly hard. So I think a little bit of helping on the adoption on that side is going to be beneficial, and see if we can scale to the numbers that we need to keep growing our pools and so on.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal to get it more accessible. Lucas.
It's not, well, I mean, one thing that comes to mind is just the question of which features we prioritize. Where do we start working? What do we start working on? There's so much going on. Polkadot is about to launch. We have XCM that you mentioned. We have functionality of in DeFi protocols, of how we integrate with them. There's a lot of open questions around what actually this multi-chain interaction will look like. And I think actually there's going to be a lot of challenges on the user experience side that we're not even thinking about yet, because we're all just sort of looking at the code and just trying to get transactions to work. But then figuring out how we make all of this user friendly, working with wallets, making sure the wallets know how to work with different parachains. I think that's going to be quite an interesting challenge that will combine tech, but also a lot of just making this more usable. The other challenge more technically is some things I spend a lot of time thinking about is as we're moving Centrifuge or pools over to Centrifuge, like the big part of what actually Centrifuge Chain will do is sort of starting to become a reality. Today, it's still like a small fraction of everything that sort of makes tinlake and makes like this whole thing of bringing real world assets into DeFi a reality. Is like this the NFT part is small, right? With pools, actually now we start to, Centrifuge Chain starts to do a lot more work, and so that means the utility for the token will go up significantly. And there's a lot of work that we can do on improving token models, figuring out how we best distribute fees, how do we manage the risk of pools, and like how do we onboard new pools to Centrifuge? Is it going to be a vote? Will we do staking and like require people to put up some CFG to vote, to pledge to pool? Like all of these like questions where that we now have the ability actually to think about it and build. So it's exciting, but also like I think a lot of unsolved questions there.
Yeah, thanks. Nice one. Lots of questions coming in now. Really cool to see. Yafa, did you want to read your question out? I think it's really nice.
Sure. I was just curious to know the kind of the background of the software engineers. If you have a traditional one in that you are any of you?
You're cutting out there, unfortunately. Is that true for everyone? Yafa, we're losing you. I think we can piece together.
Okay, I'll just, can you hear me?
No, I think it's better if you put it in the chat. But I think the question's clear, like, what are your backgrounds, engineers? Do you have proper coding degree, or did you make it up on the internet? Or what else? Did you study sociology or performing arts? Tell us.
Yeah, I think I'm boring. I have like a traditional software engineering master's degree. So not self-taught, studied and pursued the career in software engineering. Moved to blockchain pretty fast though. Yeah, this is me.
I mean, my background as well is fairly boring too. So, yeah, I have a master's in computer science and in telecommunications. So that, yeah, that directly translates to this. But yeah.
I think Branan and I have maybe more interesting stories. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. I am largely self-taught. I did a couple of years of university before dropping out and going into industry. I have a big free software background. I've contributed to various components of the Linux desktop environment here and there in my life. But that free software background, the idea of bringing, giving people control over their computing environments, is something that I bring a lot of strong feelings to what I do here, of course.
So I started playing around with computers when I had like this Linux sysadmin neighbor that gave me his old computers and his old computer manuals, and like I was just like as a 9-10-year-old kid already trying to make sense of it. Of course, like it was mostly just hitting buttons and hoping that something would happen. And from that, I like just went in that just so much intensified in high school that I like did half a year of computer science in university and then dropped out and did my own startup and kind of was bored by it. The one thing though I do want to say, which is interesting, like I would say I kind of didn't really feel like I missed all of the CS background of a traditional computer science degree. until I got into crypto 4.5 years ago, I think a lot of Web2 problems are a lot easier than some of the like constraints that we deal with in crypto, where you have to optimize things very much, like very much, where you have to know about network latency, distributed systems, and all these topics, where like you can also read up on it and get into it, and that's what I did. But I was like saying, oh yeah, like actually I think this would have been in the next year's curriculum in university, and I would have like had this base knowledge. Now I'm reading about it on Wikipedia. So that was actually interesting, because I did spend like 10 years in software, not really feeling like I needed it, and only after.
Very good. We have.
I actually still believe that 80% of what I learned is a lot of bluff in university. Just saying.
Yes, agree.
Anyone from the audience want to comment? Did you learn a lot in university? Oh, we've got another college dropout and another computer science degree. Wow, neck and neck here. Okay, so we've still got lots of questions coming through. Do you want to tackle when Altair NFT Studio Runtime 5, Lucas? I think that was asked a bit further up, and you said you would.
Yeah. So maybe we can do a few Altair questions. But so update on Runtime 5 is basically, we talked about XCM before, right? XCM super hard. And actually it turns out like none of the projects really are ready to do cross-chain transfers for NFTs. And so this is something that we really wanted to have from the start, or at least a bit more more like interaction. And so for what we decided to do with the NFT Studio or Runtime Upgrade 5 is actually extend it a bit more to enable, like, to basically build a very simple NFT marketplace. Because if we just shipped Runtime Upgrade 5 today, the only thing you could do is you could mint NFTs and transfer them, but there would be any way to buy them or sell them. And that's obviously a very big part of it. And so this is actually what we'll do first. And at the same time, also, we've been working a lot with other parachains to actually accelerate the work that is needed on both sides to support bridging into most likely Moonbeam first or Moonriver first, because they already have quite a bit of activity in the NFT space with Moonsama, Donnie's project, and like a few NFT marketplaces and so on. So these are the two things we're doing. Can't say what the timeline is on Runtime Upgrade 5, but we sort of didn't want to just like launch it and then have something that you can't really use. It's going to be a couple of weeks more, that probably with development time to build it, but should be much more exciting then. That's as much as I can share for now. Yeah.
Are there any other questions on Altair while we're on this topic? I'm just looking in the chat. Okay, well, let's move to Peter's question. Do you want to ask that out, Peter?
Sure. So I guess apart from Centrifuge and Altair, because you might be a bit biased, what are your other favorite projects that won parachain slots?
Who has a favorite?
I don't know if they've won their slot yet. I have not been paying close enough attention to the auctions. But my favorite project in the Polkadot ecosystem right now is Manta. They're doing zero knowledge ZK snark based, basically like Zcash for any token in Polkadot. It's super cool technology. It's going to be tightly coupled to all the cross-chain stuff. The idea is you can transfer any Polkadot token to their chain, and then they make a privacy-enabled version of it, and any transfers on their chain of that sort of wrapped privacy token are totally private.
Any other favorites from the 4 speakers or from anyone else? I'd love to hear anyone in the room. What's your second or third favorite Polkadot project after Centrifuge and Altair? Anyone want to volunteer? I'll just wait here in silence. It's my favorite game. Okay. Or put it in the chat. Oh, we've got Akala. Okay, second moonbeam. Very good. Okay, there's a few more quite technical questions coming in, so let's address some of those. Will you continue to keep the tin and drop tokens and the NFTs on Ethereum for tinlake and the real world asset market because of the high gas prices?
All right, I'll go. The NFTs will not. Those are going to stay, I think, entirely on the Centrifuge chain moving forward, because that's where the main pool logic is going to happen. The tokens that you get as an investor right now, tin and drop, we intend to make those bridgeable and transferable and interactable in DeFi protocols. We don't really know the shape of that yet. Again, we get back to asynchronicity and bridging being complicated. But we do intend to still interface with the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem, because that's where the liquidity is. Alina, Lucas, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I would say actually, maybe given we talked about asynchronicity and bridging so much, this question by Nathan, after the exciting wormhole bug, there's much conversation about the risk of bridges. How do you feel exposed to this risk and how to address it? So the thing maybe about this, right, about bridging is, yeah, like we heavily rely on it. I think ultimately this is inevitable with crypto, like the same way that the internet is many different systems tied together and somehow making it work. Like I think blockchains will do so too. There will be blockchains that will be better at some things, better at worse at others. Wormhole, the bad thing about the wormhole bug was actually really that it was kind of a stupid smart contract bug, and I think those we're slowly getting better and better as a whole industry to locate and figure out. There's also another class of bridge problems with bridges, which is that if they're not really trustless, they rely on a number of people to actually validate transactions. The good thing here is that Polkadot, like the Web3 Foundation and the Snowflake team, is building a trustless bridge as well, which means actually that as long as the code is well audited, there are no like humans or third parties that you have to trust, because the chains validate each other. So there's no way that you can actually like cheat a message into it. And that will make, and those kind of bridges are really the only bridges I think that are acceptable in the long run. And that's also that what Polkadot is working towards. And I think that will reduce the risk significantly of really like stuff going wrong. Because the minute you have like some servers that have a key that can sign messages that then suddenly become reality just because they sign it, it leads to very lucrative attack targets for hackers to hack and like try to exploit. Yeah.
I just want to add that within the Polkadot sort of bubble, the messaging between chains is, validated as part of the parachain validation. So it does not have a lot of the same concerns as bridging. Obviously, we can still have bugs where we do something wrong with a token from another chain, but it doesn't rely on the same sort of like bridge that go in between like Ethereum L2s does.
Okay, cool. So going back to cross-chain integrations, we have some people who are thinking seriously about implications and worst case scenarios in our community, which is good. People thinking about risk. The question is, in a hypothetical situation where cross-chain integrations take the worst case scenario, i.e. significant delays or major blockers, how are you thinking about navigating it?
I mean, I think we're going to have the most basic cross-chain stuff functional by the time pools launch. We'll be able to get some probably KUSD. That's not 100% confirmed yet, but that's what we're working on, into Altair to be able to use to fund pools and things like that. And by the time we launch pools on Centrifuge, on real world assets with real customers, like those bugs will be worked out. The more complex DeFi integrations cross-chain could definitely take a while to sort out and to understand and to build, and there could be delays there. I don't think we have a plan for that other than the big pools on Ethereum aren't going away right away, right? Those existing customers will have their stuff.
This is what I was gonna say, that we have our Ethereum pools that are working. We have working integrations. This is why we can take our time to figure it out and make it properly, and don't need to switch off the pool. So our asset originators can keep using our Ethereum pools until we are ready and have integrated protocols with our chain.
And one other thing to add is, like, it's one of the main points of Polkadot, like cross-chain messaging. It's core to the product and the ecosystem. So if something goes wrong there, it is really, like, to the degree that we're mentioning here, that's probably one of the least of the problems. Temporarily, at least, that's my take will be that it will be a temporary downtime on this. And if it's something really bad, then we all are really in a bad situation in general.
Okay, let's try to pick it up a bit. I think the question coming in from Peter is really good. And we've received another one through the forum, which relates to that, which is, what is a debt market metaverse and how might Centrifuge and Altair be related to this concept? So maybe we start with that, and then, yeah, we can touch on Peter's as well. Lucas, do you want to tackle this?
Can I take the next one?
Okay.
Or should I can, okay, I can. So it's about this is the, like, metaverse question, I guess. Like, how do we, I don't know yet. I think the reality is here is, like, if, like, people start, if sort of the metaverse is becoming a place where people borrow and lend money, not just based on, like, say I put in ETH and I get I put in 100 ETH and I borrow 50 DAI and then I do something with it, right? Like that's like the typical DeFi use case today. But if like the metaverse is like becoming a place where, for example, like I really get a mortgage on a house and I'm trying to build in the metaverse, right? Where like there isn't like something liquid that the protocol can immediately liquidate, but there's a lot of underwriting work that needs to happen, and like there's like credit risk that we need to decide on, right? That could be like actually a place where all of the technology that we're building today for these non-fungible, very illiquid loans that exist in the real world, we could totally like apply that also to the metaverse. I think ultimately, though, like right now we're trying to focus on the real world because it is a massive market. The metaverse, I'm pretty sure, will also be a massive market at some point, but we can only do so many things at once. So I would say like this is the place where we'll start, but yeah, and who knows what it will look like in 2 years. I definitely wasn't right about any predictions 2 years ago.
Yeah, nice. Anyone want to comment? Peter, do you have an opinion on this?
To be honest, my mind's blown by the whole concept. I just cool imagining what might be coming in the future. So yeah, always kind of speculating about this sort of stuff, but no real idea about how it would work.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common. Thanks for the question, and for whoever asked about the debt market metaverse. So we've got one that's just come through from Demir, and we have a couple more that came through on the forum, specifically more about burning fees, transactions, and data on chain.
I can maybe quickly answer Demir's question. So far, like the quickest way today to do this is likely, it sounds very complicated. There is an NFT bridge from Ethereum to Moonbeam, like EVM to EVM, relatively simple. There's a project that's doing that. They're not quite live yet, but they're doing that. So then you have it in Moonbeam or Moonriver. And then from there, this is the work that we set of doing to onboard, to do cross-chain transfers between Moonriver and Altair. And then so you go through Moonriver and actually can bridge any NFTs from Ethereum into Altair. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, which one was the fee question, Kate? Maybe I can talk about that as well, but I didn't see it anymore in the chat.
Yeah, it came through in the forum. I'll pop it in the chat for you. I think it's from Ivan. Yeah. Just for those who can't see the chat, I'll read it out. Recently, the community has talked a lot about the burning of fees, the number of transactions, and all other data on chain. Could you implement and display this data on the website with a sorting daily, weekly, monthly? It would be really cool to have some essential summary with graphics and numbers available for the public.
Yeah, so there's this very awesome website called makerburn.com, which talks about how much in fees Maker has burned. And I think totally like all this data is on chain, and like maybe someone will build a site like that on a hackathon. Maybe we will like build it into the app. But yeah, I mean, for the first step for us is to figure out how to model it, and as a community, like make a realistic assumption of what fees can be based on like the value we like pools bring to the borrowers and to the lenders, right? And then I think start discussion of setting these fees and how we propose it, how governance sort of set, then decides on it and moves forward. But at that point, once this is live, yeah, like this should be a super important metric that at least I would personally care a lot about. And I think, yeah, makerburn.com is a really cool example. Then there's also a follow-up question, actually. Any estimation on how many CFG will be burned at the current TVL once it's running on Centrifuge chain? Okay, so I really can't give a good estimate. I can just give you like a comparison of what people pay in the traditional world to do securitizations. And so to do securitization, so meaning you take loans, you create like a legal framework around it, you sell this portfolio of loans to many different investors, and then you pay them interest, and they basically own this, what on Tinlake is a pool token, right? They own a security, a paper contract. To do that, like it's quite frequently, like for securitizations, like somewhere between 1% and actually 2%. So per year of the overall cost. Now, of course, we're not doing anything better if we manage to build a technology that's as expensive as the traditional old school inefficient paper stuff is, right? So I don't think we should orient ourselves at that, but there's quite a bit of range in which we can be a lot cheaper, but still it's actually a substantial amount of money.
Cool. Any follow-ups to that from the crowd or comments? Otherwise, we can take that last question in the chat and then start to close up. Quentin, did you want to ask your question? Wow.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah. My question is, what is one core feature on, I guess, the parachain, the Polkadot parachain or Kusama parachain, that you're excited about that will improve the development of Centrifuge that did exist on like Substrate or Ethereum?
I can take this one, at least personally. I think one of the main things I'm excited is about zero knowledge computations, and we're starting now to play around with a constant way of verifying on chain certain logic, and then side by side with like the proving certain basically by interacting with an off-chain application. So I think that will help us a lot on many of the pieces around NFT minting, for example, or asset valuation that we're working on right now. I think it's one of the main things that I think it could make us scale and to different type of asset originators and that they don't want to disclose any data. In addition to sort of like constant computation on chain, which for parachains is very important because we're very limited by the the amount of time that a node can take to produce a block and validate a block on the relay chain after.
Any other takers? Thanks, Miguel. Yes, Alina. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I guess I'm excited not to pay 15 ETH for one pool deployment anymore because I'm not sure how sustainable this will be long term. I'm the one doing it, and every time I have one tier coming down. So yes, I'm excited for that.
You can pay me that half of that ETH for writing the pools on our chain. I'll take that finder's fee. I've talked a lot about the cross-chain stuff. I think being on Polkadot in that ecosystem, easy connections to all of these other chains that are doing different things in the DeFi space is going to be really powerful for us.
I want to highlight something that I think will make usability so much better. I think today, right, like the typical ERC20 user experience is you sign an approval for a token and then you submit a transaction, or maybe multiple because you want to do several things at once. And now if it's a multi-sig, then like you need to sign it, others need to sign it. Maybe you have a hot wallet and a cold wallet. You need to move from the cold wallet into the hot wallet, right? All this stuff. I actually think Polkadot's account model, or sort of how the kind of things that they allow you to do, because you're not limited by smart contracts and sort of the EVM, is actually extremely powerful, because for example, what you can do is you can do a batch call where you sign one transaction, it does 10 different things. Or you can do, you have one account and you can dedicate one key that is allowed to control your staking or control your voting, but it's not allowed to trade and sell your tokens. So like that key, like, sure, you can vote on something bad, but if you lose it, really, it's not that bad. So like you can have this on your keychain in your pocket on your computer at all times, right? Because you know that key, like no one can steal it. But then you have your cold key that is allowed to transfer, and that maybe you have like a multi-sig, or you have like a hardware wallet that you like don't take with you. Like we really make sure you don't actually accidentally get scammed by using it, right? Like sort of all of this stuff, right? And so being able to, for example, to separate this is super easy to do on a technical level with Polkadot, and very, very hard on Ethereum. And it causes a lot of like hacks, funds lost, stuff like that. That is like really something that Polkadot, starting this architecture from scratch, is actually able to do. And by Polkadot, like I mean any substrate chain. And I'm excited about that. I think it will make it a tinlake tinlake will be so much harder to use than what pools will be.
Yeah, nice one. I think that's a very good note to conclude this AMA on. Thank you all very much, community members, team members, for coming. And of course, thank you to Branan, Alina, Miguel, and Lucas. That was really great, and we will get this video up on YouTube ASAP. And I actually committed to taking notes of this whole thing, which I am not doing right now. So maybe I'll produce a blog about what we discussed as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
for all the questions.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
Yeah, great questions, everyone. Good point.